GMO stands for Genetically Modified Organism, defined as any organism whose genetic material has been altered using genetic engineering techniques. This does not mean it has been altered using selective breeding or natural recombination. According to the National Library of Medicine, genetically engineered foods have had foreign genes or genes from other plants or animals inserted into their genetic codes. There is a lot of controversy over the potential benefits and downsides of GMOs. Some of the benefits are that the seeds can be engineered to have a higher crop yield, a higher nutritional value, or to need less or even no pesticides or herbicides. One example is that there have been cabbage crops engineered with a portion of the gene that codes for scorpion venom to make them resistant against pests. The trace amounts cannot hurt you, but they allow the plant to not need spraying with harmful pesticides or herbicides. Some of the downsides to genetically modified organisms are possible increased allergens, antibiotic resistance, suicide seeds, and herbicide tolerance. Some GMOs actually require the use of more herbicides, not less, which can have negative effects on the environment. Also, since GMOs have been engineered to have a resistance to pests, the ones who are adapted survive and create a higher prevalence of superbugs, or bugs resistant to the pesticides, which then causes crops to need higher amounts of pesticides or more toxic chemicals. Suicide seeds are seeds that have been engineered to kill themselves off after one or two crop seasons or produce infertile offspring. There are 5 common myths about GMOs. The first is that all seeds from GMOs are sterile. This is not true because although some have been engineered to be suicide seeds, the majority have. Another myth is that GMO contamination causes organic food to be non-organic, but still labeled as such. It is not very common for this contamination to happen, but when it does, the FDA still considers the food to be organic despite contamination. A third myth is that before suicide seeds, farmers typically saved and reused seeds. This is not true for the majority because it is more time-consuming to collect and prepare seeds than to just order new each planting season. The fourth myth is that most seeds these days have been genetically altered. Actually, many of the things that are in the market have not been genetically engineered at all. However, much of the processed and packaged foods we consume contain GMOs. The most common sources of GMOs are soy, cotton, canola, sugar beets, corn, papaya, zucchini, and yellow squash. Finally, the fifth and possibly most fear-inducing myth is that genetic alterations in GMOs can actually alter your own genome or cause you cancer from the genetic mutations in the organisms. This is completely untrue. Most of the food you consume contains DNA, and consuming a food that has slightly different DNA than what naturally occurs will not and cannot affect your own genetic material.